that the younger generation will see that if you have a problem, that you should be able to speak out. That's our right to speak out. If I was to ask everybody in this room, are you willing to sign over right now, come over and sign your rights over to the government? How many people want to do that? Not many, none. But your complacency does exactly the same thing. If you don't speak out about injustice, about wrongs, you're basically signing your freedoms away. So with my family, we went through a nightmare. A little over a year ago, we have a son. He was a handful. So I kept approaching law enforcement. Please help. We don't know what to do with our son. He's really out of control, very physical. We'd end up with gold rings at home. He was stealing from people. I would guess 15 times we called law enforcement. Please help us. We don't know what to do with our son. Never got an answer. Never any suggestions on what we should do. No numbers to call. So my wife, bless her heart, spent forever, searching throughout Rapid City, Sioux Falls, anywhere we could take Chad to help him with his behavior. So he's just trying to parent these issues. Nothing. Finally, and I should say we're from Newell, South Dakota. It's a little town. Finally, a deputy said, Wendel, go fill out a Chin's petition so the state can get involved, helping you control your child. So we did. We went and filed a Chin petition. In that petition, I also wrote in there that I fear for the safety of my children. We genuinely feel for the safety of our kids, all of our kids. We had 7 kids at home. So I turned it in to Heather Plunkett. She's the prosecuting attorney, the state's attorney in Butte County. We came home and I sat there waiting for her to call, waiting for something. 2 months go by, nothing. And then they come and arrest my wife and I at our home and took our kids away. Charged us with 30 felony counts of child abuse. Threw us in jail. Now, I'm a father that's always taught my kids honesty, integrity, it pays off. So here's Dad sitting in jail with 300 years of felony child abuse charges against me. A $100,000 cash bond to get out. I hear on the media, because I'm in a cell now, Marty Jackley going all over the news saying this is the worst case of child abuse in South Dakota history. We're also wanted for kidnapping. We're under investigation for kidnapping. On and on and on. Destroying us. Literally destroying us. So I'm in jail. People, inmates in there are saying, what are you in here for? I've never been in jail. I have a perfectly clean record. No convictions in. What are you in here for? And I tell them, I'm in here for parenting. And they'd say, oh, stop it. What are you in here for? And I would say, I'm in here for parenting. Nobody believed me. It took a good friend of ours to help bail my wife and I out of jail. I was in there for a month. My kids were in really abusive foster care. The day they took our kids away and threw my wife and I in jail, the foster parents immediately started telling our kids, you've been abused, you've been abused. They would say, no, we haven't. Oh, you're just brainwashed. You've been abused. Immediately upon entering foster care. To the point my children were crying. They would hide in closets and bathrooms because the foster care, the parents were just treating our children like what I believe they were. They were dollar signs for the state. So it took us a long time to get our kids back, almost a year. During this, I went to my first bond reduction hearing. I remember going into the courtroom in cuffs and in shackles While the media's out there taking my pictures, I'm walking up to the courthouse. This is Dad, mind you. And I go into the courthouse, and they're at my bond reduction hearing, and I wanted to get it lowered. I don't have $10,000, or $100,000 at that point. So Heather Plunkett, the prosecutor, got up there and said, Your Honor, he works for cash. He sends all his money to his mothers. He's transient. He moves around all the time. Not one statement that came out of that woman's mouth was correct. I've never worked for cash. I've never, even though I would love to send my mother money, I am the sole supporter of our family. I could never afford to send my mom $10. Then we move around all the time. In 1989, I bought a home. We sold it in 2008 and bought a home in Newell. Our kids know nothing of except of those two homes. She also quoted a song I had written. The judge sat there, swallowed it all up. My public defender, which the judge had appointed for me, 2 months. He'd been an attorney 2 months, and he got in my case 300 years, 30 felony charges. Destroyed us. So for the next 3 months, I had to wear an ankle bracelet, had to pay for it myself, had to pay for the getting out of jail myself. There's $50,000 worth of liens on our family home for that public defender. Less than 3 months later, they dropped every charge. No plea bargain. They screwed up. They screwed up, and my family is paying for it. They were irresponsible, reckless, and corrupt. The Chins petition I filed, where I had written, I fear for the safety of my children. Guess what? Heather Plunkett took that out. She removed that. When I was first in jail, my attorney goes to the Butte County Sheriff's Office and asks them, we need copies of how many times Wendel called it regarding his son. They said 1 time. Thank the Lord, I had a good ex-deputy friend of mine that worked for Butte County that told my attorney where to look. Lo and behold, my attorney found it. There was 15 other times I'd called on my son. This is how they get people in jail and keep them in jail. It's not about truth. It's not about justice. It's about the dollars they made off stealing my children. It's about the dollars that they now own my house. So I and my family, my wife, have paid dearly. My daughters have paid too high of a price for being innocent. Innocence shouldn't cost you everything. So I feel bad that I wasn't there when they were begging for help. They wouldn't even let me talk to my kids. It's a tough thing for your children to be crying for help. And Mom and Dad are not allowed to even speak with our children on the phone. They started complaining to DSS about the abuse going on in foster care. The foster father grabbing their inner thighs, swatting them on the butt, asking them to bend over. They got punished. Literally screamed at for telling DSS, because what does DSS do? Whenever my children say something's going on, the DSS agent goes right to the foster parent and says, hey, they're saying this. Fix it. Shut them up. It got to the point where my daughter moved into the same abusive foster home, Brianna, our oldest, and she said that Judy was saying, whatever is said in this house stays in this house. If you don't get along, if you don't start going with the system, we'll have you sent away to a place way worse than where your brother was sent. This is how they operate. They fear, intimidation, manipulation. They take our children and they put them off somewhere where they don't have a voice. Our children couldn't reach out. They couldn't do anything. So I'm here today to say we've got to open our eyes. When something like this happens, we can't just go, boy, that was really sad, and turn away. Because if you do that, it's going to happen again and again and again. And one day, you or your family will be the victim, I guarantee you. So we have to flex our muscles. We have to flex our rights. We can never let government take away what is ours. These rights are our rights. They're here to protect us from abusive government. And if we turn away, I hate to say I have 7 children. I want to be able to say on my deathbed that I fought for their freedoms. If fighting involves getting up on a podium and saying, hey, this is what happened, we cannot accept this, then that is fighting. You're doing your part. But we just can't keep quiet about it. And I, sadly to say, I saw pictures up here of kids being abused in foster care. This is such a norm. And if a parent, you know what my public defender told me? He said, if you complain about the foster parents, point blank, if you complain about the foster parents, you will never get your kids back. So do you think, we miss our children? What are we going to do? We're going to shut up. And I shut up long enough to get my kids back. I'm not shutting up anymore.